The Daily Signal is coming to you live on the final day of the Republican National Convention here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we're joined now by the state's former governor, current president of the Young America's Foundation, Scott Walker. Thanks so much for being here, sir.
Glad to be here.
Well, what a welcome Milwaukee has given the Republican Party and Donald Trump. Let's start by talking about how significant Milwaukee is and what your expectations were as the former governor for Donald Trump as he has spent every night in the convention hall. I mean, truly remarkable to see him there.
It is awesome. And, well, first off, we're glad to have, all this happening in our beloved state, in Milwaukee, that kind of got shortchanged 4 years ago when they were supposed to have the DNC and, of course, got shut down by COVID. Everybody's loving it. The weather's great. I tell every law enforcement officer I see, have you had the cheese curds? They're loving that. So it's been a great show. But I think politically, more important than just the welcome for the folks here, this is a battleground state. You know, Donald Trump won in 2016 because he won Wisconsin. He didn't win Wisconsin and obviously didn't win. This is the state. There's battleground states and then there's Wisconsin. I don't think there's a path for Joe Biden or any other Democrat if they don't carry this state. So him being here, the energy at a whole new level, not just typical convention energy, but sadly, tragically, because of what happened Saturday, although, you know, it's kind of like a phoenix rising out of the ashes. What could have been, literally, could have been a funeral, a surreal, horrific thing, not just for Republicans, for the nation this week, is a triumph. And I think the delegates feel it, and I think it's affecting the rest of this state.
As somebody who's been to many conventions in the past, Cleveland, Tampa, New York, I have felt it myself. It seems to be different from past years, the unity in particular. Let me ask you this, though. As somebody who's won statewide office multiple times, survived a recall election, what are the issues that you hear from Wisconsin voters that you think will motivate them to pull the lever one way or the other?
It's economy. It's all about, more specifically, high prices. You know, when I'm on panels with Democrat or liberal strategists, they'll say, oh, GDP's up, the stock market's up. I said, come with me to Wisconsin. You know, when it cost me $1.25 more to fill my tank at Quick Trip, when it cost me a whole lot more to fill up our grocery cart at the Century around the block from us in Delafield, when my kids who are building their new home, my son and daughter-in-law have to pay nearly $1,000 more a month in mortgage payments. That's real money. All the ads that, you know, Biden and Harris have a huge financial advantage. We see it for real here in Wisconsin. Campaign offices, paid field staff, others out here. But the enthusiasm is on the side of Trump and now Vance. And that's because not only conservative Republican voters, but independents can see with their own eyes. They can feel it in their own families. They know it is far less affordable under Joe Biden. And he's got to just keep pounding on that, he being Donald Trump.
You had a front row seat for JD Vance's speech last night.
Yeah.
It was not lost on me that he called out Ohio, of course, his home state, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania specifically. What does his addition to the ticket mean to voters in those states?
Yeah, on Monday it was fun because Monday afternoon, of course, it was announced on Truth Social. We were on the floor. Media swarmed me, and other than the obvious, hey, he's a fellow Midwesterner, we loved that. I said then, and it was really well articulated by our future vice president last night, I said the bigger deal, I think, is the narrative of his life and how it translates and connects to who Donald Trump stands up for. You know, JD Vance talked, it wasn't just clearly it was a political map, but if you know his story or if you've watched it on Netflix, you know that coming out of Kentucky and then into Ohio, his mother, who was there last night, nearly 10 years clean, but he grew up, you know, abject poverty, the child of a single mother addicted to drugs with a tough as nails grandmother. She talked about when she died, I think they found 29 loaded firearms. People, not in the small towns, but in the big cities who are living in poverty can relate to that too, to protect their families. And then he talked about that map that out of the Appalachian Mountains, manufacturing, the people who worked in those areas went to, like you said, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, even into Minnesota. Those are people who can relate not just to JD Vance, but those are the people that Donald Trump fights for. the forgotten men and women. That's JD's family, and I think it's a perfect connection to the ticket.
Yeah, no, it certainly seems that way so far. Let's pivot to your role at the Young America's Foundation. I remember you and I did an interview shortly after you began, and you had a transformational vision for what you wanted to do at YAF, and certainly you're fulfilling that. Share with our viewers some of the initiatives that you're proud of undertaking and what the future holds.
Yeah, YAF.org if people are interested. We knew we had to get in the long game. We had a solid foundation for our foundation. We're connected to, we run the Reagan Ranch, the Reagan Boyd Home. In fact, we got a big conference coming up next week, which Heritage helps us out with along the way, and others. But besides conferences, we hold more conservative lectures than any other group in America on campus. We had the largest number by far this past year. So, you know, big names that kids love on podcasts like Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles, but traditional names like Ben Carson or Mike Pompeo or others along the way. And then we broadcast those lectures. And we're now up on our YAF TV, our YouTube channel. We have over 1.7 million subscribers. Last year alone, we surpassed 1.3 billion views. And that's how you scale up. You train people, you equip them, you send them on their campus or at their schools. They get engaged and bring in thought challenges there. And then you go out and scale it up by bringing it out to the masses. It's been incredibly successful thus far, and it actually even ties into your political questions. Before the debate, we did a poll. We were out in the field, nationwide poll of college and high school students, particularly amongst college students, not what you'd think. Number one issue by far, the economy. And if you ask, there certainly are more liberals than conservatives, but interesting enough, the number one answer is moderate. And I said the easy answer on a campus is liberal. So if some kid says they're a moderate, it really means they're open to what we're talking about with the economy, with fairness when it comes to women's sports, to fairness when it comes to things like racial quotas. They don't buy into that. Those are things we can make inroads with young people on, and it's having the kind of success that we thought we wanted to have early on.
I've heard from people, even here, who are part of Gen Z, that they are more open-minded, maybe than previous generations, to conservative ideas, because in some respects they feel let down by what the left has promised. What are you observing, since that's a target audience of yours?
Two key things for this audience nationwide, not just here. Overwhelmingly authenticity. It's why a viral moment can't be made. It's why part of how we go viral so often with our lectures is not by concocting it, but by rather adding more content. The more lectures we have, the more we encourage dynamic Q&A, the more, and Ben really perfected this, but others do it now, where we say, you disagree, raise your hand, go to the front of the line. Makes for good TV or good video, but it also is engaging. I think overwhelmingly kids, like a lot of American voters, don't know what to think. And they're curious, and they feel intimidated by the left, but their ears and their eyes are open to at least hearing a bit more. So authenticity is premium, which I think is a good thing. The other thing is fairness. You know, the left has commandeered fairness. We're about fairness. You know, my view, when I talk to kids, I don't care whether you're rich or poor, black or white. I don't care where you're born here, legally came here from somewhere else. In America, you should have the same opportunities and the same freedoms that our ancestors, you know, fought so hard to protect for us. And I think to young people, that's compelling when you show the contrast is the left is all about division. You know, if they don't agree with you, you're racist, you're sexist, you're transphobic, whatever it might be. So we need to make our case over and over again, not only intellectually, but frame it in terms of fairness.
Well, and you know as well as I do, they do harbor those views, but they also have engaged in a process of trying to cancel conservatives or censor their ability to get their message out. What has been the experience on college campuses to ensure that those conservative speakers can continue to show up and you're able to produce those videos that then are seen by millions or billions of viewers?
Easy response is if you're under attack, YAF's got your back. So if you're watching, if you're a student or you know a student, you're under attack, YAF's got your back, YAF.org. But we say that because we're constantly under attack. I mean, UCLA is a good example. So to counter the crazy campus encampments that totally violated, by the way, UCLA's Code of Student Conduct, they didn't enforce it like so many other campuses did. So in addition to calling them out on that, our YAF chapter, Matt Weinberg, the chair there, worked with us about saying we're going to bring in a counter, not protest, but a speaker. So 2 weeks after the encampments, they do all the right things. They get the permit. They have the room. Moments before the speaker's about to come in, the students can come in to hear him. They shut it down. They block them from having it. They try to push it somewhere else on campus. They try to do other things. Well, we're taking them to court. We're joining with Mountain State's Legal Foundation. We're going to take them to court, and we're going to win. We did that before when they tried to shut Ben Shapiro down through us, through YAF, at the University of California, Berkeley. So if we can win at UC Berkeley, we can win at UCLA, we can win anywhere in America, and we're going to do that. We not just for our students, not just for our talks, because we help not just YAF chapters, we help college Republicans, we help any other group out there. But if a student out there, again, is listening or watching, and they're getting crap for trying to speak up where they have every right to do so, we will join with our legal partners, ADF, others out there, and we'll protect them, because the Constitution says free speech is paramount, but it should be revered on our college campuses. And tragically, that's where it's most under assault.
Well, and I'm so glad, as somebody who works in the media, that conservatives are the ones championing free speech. And there's perhaps
and
no.
JD talked about that last night. I'm like, yes.
He did. He said, let's have the debate. I mean, it's so true.
Even within the movement, there are things we can talk about.
Absolutely.
We're not afraid of that. We're not lockstep like so many on the left. We can have a debate about the logical role. I get way off on a tangent, but I get so tired of reporters who don't know anything about history, certainly nothing about the movement. I'm not including you, but those on the floor who say, oh, this is a different party than Reagan. I'm like, no, it's not. Ronald Reagan was ridiculed by the establishment. He's ridiculed by the media. Yeah, is his tone different? For sure. Personalities, light years apart. But substantively, this was a guy who didn't push engagement around the world. This is a guy who pushed peace through strength. So when I was a kid, I didn't have to worry about being drafted or thrown into a war that I didn't want to be a part of, or that the nation didn't want to be a part of, because Ronald Reagan kept us out of war. Why? Not by being weak, but by being strong. Exactly what Donald Trump's talking about. This is a guy who in this area, just down in Serb Hall in Milwaukee, it's called one of the biggest showings for Ronald Reagan was at a place that's traditionally blue-collar Democrat, Union Hall, filled with Reagan Democrats. That was where that phrase was coined, Reagan Democrats. Those are exactly the kind of people who are JD's family, and people like them. People who've lived in poverty, people who've been forgotten, people who feel like the politicians don't care about them. Ronald Reagan was their champion more than 4 decades ago. Donald Trump's their champion today.
Well, and your organization does a tremendous amount with the Reagan Ranch to make sure that we understand that history and the important role that Reagan. One of the things that for those of you who are not here, as you walk around the streets of Milwaukee, you see Reagan movie posters everywhere. Of course, that movie's coming out August 30th. Part of it was filmed at the Reagan Ranch. Tell us about that experience and your interactions, and also for those who don't know about the Reagan Ranch, what they can experience firsthand.
Dennis Quaid, who portrays unbelievably well done. Now, he won't get an Oscar because Hollywood is rigged to the left, but he should. Penelope Ann Miller, for that matter, portrays Nancy Reagan. Does a phenomenal job. John Voight plays a KGB agent who talks about Ronald Reagan's rise throughout the ranks. Phenomenal movie, great story, obviously. We're proud. I was there the day that Dennis Quaid filmed riding on the horse that you'll see at the tail end of the movie. So there's a number of great images. ReaganRanch.com going forward. People can look at as we get closer to August 30th for the movie. Make the connection, but just YAF.org overall will tell you about not just our story, but specifically, we've owned and operated the Reagan Ranch since 1998. Nancy Reagan handed over the keys. Everything that was there, the saddles, the boots, the hats, the equipment, the Secret Service command post, it's all there. And I always tell people, particularly when students come up, so we have high school, college, and now even middle school programs there. Supporters can come visit as well. It is phenomenal. 688 acres overlooking the San Ynez Valley on one side, the ocean on the other. But more importantly, it's Ronald Reagan can see the frugality. It's a very simple place. Not what when Gorbachev came in, the Soviets kind of laughed because they expected this big palace. But Ronald Reagan actually lived the life that he said that he lived, not just talked about, but lived it. Most importantly, though, I love the fact that he rode the horses. He cleared the pass up there. He used to say there's nothing better for the inside of the man than an outside of a horse. But he kept talking about that place. Even when his last press conference said, I'm going back home to freedom. For him, the ranch personified what he thought of about America. Untapped, unlimited potential, believed in the American people, just like he loved being on the ranch. And it's a once-in-a-lifetime experience to go there.
It's phenomenal. Thank you for preserving it and making it accessible to the next generation. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you one final question about a program that has really, I think, helped us at the Daily Signal. It's your National Journalism Center. You are training the next generation of journalists, people who are working in the media world. And as we know, this is, and it's so critical for conservatives to have an active role in news organizations, not just conservative media, but across the spectrum. Tell us about that program and how just generally people can get involved with all of your programs.
We love, in fact, people like Greg Gutfeld went through NJC. So it's a pretty good company, along with other alumni like Katie Pavlich, Mark Levin, and others. But yeah, the National Journalism Center. Every year, I just spoke 2 weeks ago at the National Press Club, which was kind of fun, to all of our interns that were assembled there. They come from all different backgrounds, all over the country. And it really is. It's about truth finding. In fact, we do a whole intensive effort on investigative reporting. We not only have sessions for them each week as part of the NJC, but then we embed them into news organizations, not only in D.C., but all across the country. And it's exactly, when I talked to him not just as the YAF president, but as a former governor who dealt with the media all the time. And I said, hey, integrity is paramount. You know, you don't have to be biased towards me, but just be a straight shooter, get out the facts, don't hold back on things. I told him, most importantly, go where the facts take you, not where the story headline is. Secondly, talked about just the importance of hard work and really searching things out. But I think the beauty of this program in particular is that even those who come from a conservative standpoint can have an impact beyond just conservative media outlets if they're willing to be good investigative reporters. That is a lost art. That's why the Dow Prize, which we just gave to the folks who did the Twitter files, I think is the up-and-coming alternative to the Pulitzer, which the Pulitzer once was that and has sadly gone towards a leftist kind of rewarding agenda. The bottom line is we should be lifting up, and our winners, you know, were people who in the past wouldn't be identified as conservatives, but they were willing to go where the facts took them. That's right. What the NGC is about.
The Dow. I was at the Dow Prize dinner, a fantastic event. For everyone out there who might be watching and is interested, I encourage you to check that out because it's an important way to recognize the good characteristics and the quality work of journalism. And I'm so glad you made the contrast with the Pulitzer because it's disappointing as somebody who's been in media for so long to see them go in a direction that they have.
I always said as a conservative in elected office, I didn't need conservative reporters. I didn't need biased reporters. I just need fair reporters. And so if people are willing to tell the truth, and if you think about it from our founding, why did they carve out, of all the industries you could carve out, why did we carve out the press as part of the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment? It was because you needed an informed electorate to be able to make sure that we ensure that we stood for the rights and freedoms that are guaranteed as a part of living in this republic. Every day we step away from a level-headed, unbiased media, it makes it that much harder to uplift and uphold all those other rights.
That's right. That's right. Well, I remember, I think probably going back to 2010, when you were governor, you always were willing to engage in those conversations. And you know, despite the fact that you sometimes faced hostile questions from the press, it's nice to talk to somebody who is willing to at least engage in that debate and recognize that people will have differing opinions, but it's still important to you know, have that conversation. So thank you for spending time with the Daily Signal today, and thank you for welcoming us to this great state all week for the Republican National Convention.
We're glad to have everybody here, and for those watching who haven't been here, you got to make it to Wisconsin.
That's right.
Particularly in the summer. The weather's perfect.
Well, check out the Young America's Foundation and all of the great work that they're doing at yaf.org. Governor Scott Walker, thank you for spending time with the Daily Signal. I'm Rob Bluey. We are coming to you live throughout the day from the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We'll be back soon.